Hi, I'm Blake Rayhans.
And I'm Stacie Mallon.
And you are listening to the Optimized AF podcast.
We know life is hard. We're here to make it simple.
Hi, welcome to the Optimized AF podcast. I'm Blake Rayhans.
And I'm Stacie Mallon. And today we are diving back into habit stacking. Part two. Deuce is something else. But I digress. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole quite this early.
We're not going to spiral?
In the episode. No, we're not going to spiral out of control this quickly. So today we are going to talk a little bit about the book Atomic Habits. And if you're watching this on YouTube or any of the other channels, we will give James Clear all the credit and link his book. And he also has a journal that we're going to talk a little bit about that Blake and I struggle with using, even though there are videos and everything else to tell us how to do it. But we're going to give you some simple things that for us, when we read that book, we both walked away with something that was very valuable for us. And I use it every day, and I use it with clients, and I use it with my kids. And so for me, it was the thing that was the most resonant. And then Blake said the same thing for him. We always start with our game. It's called $10 words. And we're doing the battle version today, where we're going to go back and forth versus one person have the floor. And Blake's warming up for whatever that he's
Got to do my stretches.
Got to do the stretches.
Let's get ready for this battle.
Feel like we need a dance break at some point. And we're going to go with the scenario of...
Drum roll.
Going to the supermarket during COVID.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I like this.
Noodle on that one.
I like this. And just for the listeners out there, just so you know, I do the grocery shopping for my household. Yes. So this I can relate to this, and you do not have an upper hand on me. I
didn't think I did.
Well, you might.
Are you gender stereotyping? That maybe
no.
I was the...
I don't think it was a topic till you brought it up.
All right.
I'm just saying.
I think it's just recency bias is my thing, because I went yesterday.
Well, I'm glad that you took ownership of it.
Yes, so. It was the trip from hell. I was ready to leave as soon as I walked out the door.
It is terrible to go to the supermarket right now.
It is. It's not fun. And I have teenagers to feed, so it's a must.
Yep.
So I'm going to let you kick it off and just describe your trip to the supermarket.
Yeah. No, so, pulling into the supermarket parking lot, first and foremost, we're in Phoenix, Arizona. It's July 2020. We're in the middle of the COVID pandemic. Pulling into the supermarket parking lot is sort of trying to find the most optimized space for your vehicle where it can sit securely amongst its peers. Okay. And then, walking into the store is always an event, because we seem like you look to your left and you look to your right, and there's always this moment right now of the herd of human beings, and at what point do they both look at each other and go, do we put our mask on now? Do we wait till we get to the door? Am I going to put it on back in my car? And there's this unspoken, judgment by some right now. It just is what it is of, if you're out and about in public, you should always have that on. And, my stance on it is, of course, the social distancing. And if I'm in my own vehicle, or if I'm walking outside and I'm still not even just 6 feet, I'm 30 yards from the nearest person, I'm not going to wear it. It's 120 degrees outside. It's already uncomfortable to breathe in for me. It's hot. And so I'm waiting until I get close there. So,
you parked your Tesla in an optimal space.
Yes.
And you plugged it in order to energize the vehicle as you are doing your shopping. That's your strategy, wouldn't you say?
Well, there's some holes in it. So I'm going to poke a few holes in it, okay? Yeah. And we don't want the boat to sink, so we're going to quickly plug those holes one by one. In a prioritized order, based on an order of operations, we find optimally positioned in the marketplace and outside the marketplace, for that matter, with the end goal of getting to the end result that our strategy wants us to get to.
Well, on the strategery, which I think Bush is the one who made.
Strategery is a word. I'll give you that. That's
the strategery here in Phoenix, Arizona, is to find the fucking shade, is what it is. Like, find the shady spot, right? So after finding the shady spot, I agree. once you lather up like a surgeon with your antibacterial whatever, and you apply your face mask and have to make the critical decision, to Blake's point, on whether you put it on while you're in your car, as you're walking into the supermarket, or if you're going to escape judgment until you actually hit the doorway of the supermarket. And then there's this other weird moment that I think happens right now is there's this poor human that's standing at the door, and the whole intention for this person is to ensure that the carts are wiped and that it is very obvious which carts have been sanitized, which carts have been not sanitized, and that they are distributing the sanitized carts so that you can have the safest possible experience as you possibly can.
They're there to ensure orderly conduct and make sure that everybody enters into the supermarket the way we are. So, we haven't even made it inside the supermarket yet.
No.
So, that's the game for today, though.
And you could be, it depends on if you're woke or not woke, if you're a Karen or you're not a Karen,
the
apparently.
Karen thing. Oh, my God.
So, I'm
just going to go on record. I feel sorry for anybody named Karen, especially if you're a genuinely good person.
Yeah. I'm going to say, hey, girl, to the Karens.
Yeah.
Hey, girl.
Sorry to all the Karens out there that actually have a caring heart.
Yep.
For those Karens that are the Karen out there, well, let's just hope our paths never cross.
Yeah.
So.
I thought Stacie was bad until Karen became a meme, and now I don't feel so bad about my name, even though I feel like I'm named after a stripper.
I'm reminded right now of the scene in that movie Ted, where they're going through the names. Oh my God, we'll have to link to that skit somewhere below.
That's good.
Well, let's jump right into today's episode. I'm super excited to get into this. So when we did part 1 of this, we really kind of helped you guys get the lay of the land, if you will, on what habits and routines have sort of been upheavaled, within our own lives. Upheaved, heaveled, upshuveled, sheveled, disheveled. We're gonna go with any of those words in any combination you want to put them together in.
Just amalgamize,
yeah. Let's pontificate
together
on the definition of each of those.
Let's do that.
So what we were intending to do is we wanted to make sure that you guys understood what we were talking about was that habits and routines shape the life that you want to have, and we're not going to take the stance of trying to justify that statement. I think you can do that if you don't believe it. There's a lot of resources.
Ray Dalio says that choose your habits wisely. Habit is probably the most powerful tool in your brain's toolbox. And I call it a groove, right? That
Absolutely.
Habit forms a groove. And Atomic Habits is a little bit about neuroscience, which is probably why I loved it. I think Blake and I both love the neuroscience and the psychology when we read something, but there is a lot of neuroscience around. The more you do this habit, the more the deeper the groove it forms. And so think about this as building your first groove, right? And getting back into your groove. So pun intended, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you've been out of your groove. COVID smacked you upside the head, and you weren't really sure which end was up for a while. So what now? And the what now is it's time to get back on your feet and get moving.
Get back on the horse. And let me say too, we're talking about Atomic Habits by James Clear, but there are a lot of resources out there. Mm-hmm. There's Millionaire Success Habits. There's the habit. I think there's one. Is it habit? No, Purpose Driven Life. But that talks a little bit about habits. There's several books about habits.
Yeah.
That alone tells you why. Obviously, if it's a topic worth writing about, and many authors have taken a stab at their viewpoint on the power of habits.
Right. And people that are very successful, it's not a coincidence that many of them do these things. They habit stack these things. Now, if I had a personal trainer to be accountable to and a personal chef that made my food, I've always said it's really easy to be really good when you have a lot of resources and a lot of humans that are making your life easy. That's not my life. I make other people's lives easy for a living, I feel like, including my kids. And so I have to be accountable to myself to create these grooves. And we talked about this a little in the last episode when I read this book. Habit stacking came to the surface to me as something that was absolutely an easy thing to begin to apply. And then it was an easy thing to add on to, and that's why it's stacking over time as I got into the rhythm. And I told Blake, I started this story last time about vitamins, and I always have wanted to really have, I'm in my 40s. I'm obviously a girl, and so it's really important to get supplemental nutrients. Try to get most of my nutrients through food, but it's important to be taking some supplements, adrenal supplements, for example. I see a naturopathic physician, Dr. Hammer, and adrenal supplements as your stress level goes up. And let's face it, during the middle of COVID, I don't know that I had more of a stressful time.
If there's anybody out there that is during COVID not getting elevated stress levels,
yeah,
I want to talk to you, figure out what you're doing.
Well, it's probably those people that are, I don't know, making $1 billion selling hand sanitizer. They probably have a much less stressful life right now.
Very possible.
Or maybe they're really stressed out because they're not used to being busy. I'm not sure which one. But I really wanted to start taking supplements. And so I bought the supplements and I bought the little thing. And lo and behold, time after time after time again, I would forget to take them. I put them by my bedside table. I put them by my toothbrush. I could not get in a rhythm. And so habit stacking, just to introduce the concept, is to take a habit you already have. Let's say washing my face. So that's when I started to do it. So every night I wash my face. As a girl, this is like a necessary evil for most women. We have to wash the day and our makeup off of our face before we go to bed. Maybe you don't do that. Most women do. So what I did was I decided that I would actually put that right by my face wash, and then I would habit stack washing my face, and then immediately following washing my face, I would take my vitamins. So it seems like such a simple thing. And it was probably a shift of only 5 minutes for me because I really wash my face right before I go to bed. But the intentionality of putting it right there and saying to myself every day, wash face, take vitamins, wash face, take vitamins. And even like starting the water to warm it up, sometimes I just take my vitamins because they were right there. And now what's happened for me is that groove is so deep. This has now been probably 9 or 10 months for me that I've done this. And that groove is so deep that even when I'm traveling, if I forgot to take that pill box out of my luggage and I have my face wash there, I feel like a piece of me is missing. Like something is not right because I am so, those habits are so stacked together with one another that I feel like one is missing.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out, if you're listening to this, what Stacie's talking about, what we're going to get into is the creation of a new habit. You want to optimize something in your life. You want to bring something up to a new level. But let me take it back, though, to some of our earlier years. And I challenge you, if you're listening to this, to think about some habits that you already stack. You don't even realize you're doing it. And I think that's important for people to understand because this isn't a hard or difficult thing to do. It does not have to be complex. You probably remember back from, and everybody's experience is different, but you probably remember from being even a child where you might have done making your bed in the morning. And that might have been something that you immediately did right before you got dressed, or you got dressed right before you brushed your teeth, or you had your bowl of cereal while you were watching Saturday morning cartoons, and the next habit you did is you cleared the table. Now, some of that might be, that was discipline, that was parents, it was whatever it was for you. But we put these things together because it makes our mind trigger without us having to actively think about it. Let's just use that as even a general definition of habit. Today, currently, I go to start making the coffee. I turn around and go to the fridge and I get the creamer that my wife likes. I make her a cup of coffee every single morning, but that is tied to one another. She likes creamer in the coffee. I start the coffee pot. While that coffee is brewing and getting into the cup, I go and get the creamer. I don't do it before. I don't do it 10 minutes later. And I also don't think about it because I've done it so long. To your point, the groove is so deep, it's there. But for me, I have found the best result from habit stacking. I like your example of I already wash my face. Mine came to me, if you're listening to this, what worked for me was I wanted to tie it to something that was a reward. So not every evening, but I like to unwind. Usually I will wait until the end of the week, but I had gotten into a groove where I wanted to go ahead and, I'm going to sort of turn on a TV show. I'm just going to let the day kind of drift away, and I might have a drink. I might have a glass of bourbon, go crack open a cold beer. It's hot here in Phoenix, and that just was refreshing. But I would tie certain habits to that reward. And so it was sort of holding that back until I did the thing I wanted to do. And for me, what it was, because that was late in the day, is I wanted to get into a better habit of starting the following day off right with intention. I wanted to write down the 3 things that I needed to focus on getting accomplished the next day. And for whatever reason, I had a difficult time remembering to do that. I couldn't just put pen to paper and just say, look, tomorrow I'm going to do A, I'm going to do B, I'm going to do C. No matter what happens, I'm going to make sure those things get done, because you can't control everything. And I couldn't do it. And so then I tied it to a reward and say, hey, you know what? You don't go crack open that cold beer. You don't go and pour that glass of bourbon until you write down the 3 things that you intend to do. So for me, that actually worked really, really well to just sort of withhold a reward until I did the habit that I wanted to. Now it's just second nature.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. And I think related to that, I actually built a full PM routine at this point. Something that I recognized that was very good for me was taking an Epsom salt bath nightly, not a long one. 10 minutes is the therapeutic benefit is between 10 and 20 minutes. So I just had a goal of sitting. The other thing that I had a really hard time doing is meditating, which we'll talk about, just taking deep breaths and being aware before bed, right? Just clearing my head so I can go to sleep. So I began habit stacking, washing my face, doing my vitamins. While I'm doing that, I'm drawing a bath, putting in the Epsom salt, and then in the bathtub, to your point, like I'm in the reward of being someplace that's very comforting for me. We take breaths. And so now this is something that I do. This evening routine is something that I do with my boyfriend. What's gotten a little funny is that we now don't stay in hotel rooms without bathtubs typically, because it really upsets the apple cart for us when we can't do our PM routine. If we can't do our wind down routine, we feel off, If you are the type of person that goes 100 miles an hour right until you hit the pillow, that wind down time is really hard. And for those of you who don't know, magnesium is something that can kind of help you relax. And Epsom, that's the main positive benefit of Epsom salt. It releases magnesium. So it's really starting small. So I think today we're going to give you some ideas too on one thing you can choose, because again, eating that elephant, as Blake has said a few times, is like eating that elephant one bite at a time is picking one habit and figuring out what's one thing that you do consistently every day. Maybe that's just getting up, or maybe that's just going to bed. Maybe they're the only 2 consistent things you do every single day at this point.
It might be.
Because that's where people are. But pick one of those 2 things and habit stack something that moves you in a positive direction.
Yeah, and the thing I would add to that too is that you need to have grace. You need to give yourself the space to fail, because what I see often with people in my community, in my network that I've talked about habits and routines with, is once they set the intention to go and input a new habit into their lives, the first time they fail, their success rate of doing it again is it's almost none, right? And even in James's book, Atomic Habits, he talks about never fail twice, never miss twice, I think is how he says it. And I could be wrong on the quote, but he says, look, you are going to miss. You're going to say, hey, you know what? I really want to drive my knowledge acquisition. I want to read more. And so I'm going to set a new habit. I'm going to stack reading 10 pages a day with my, nightly routine of washing my face. If you miss that, don't beat yourself up. You cannot get into a headspace of diminishing your ability to put this habit to that deep groove, as you said, Stacie. Just try your best not to miss twice.
Yeah. And I think doing the action too, like we talked about, so we're going to give you some ideas, like 20 ounces of water first thing in the morning. What if you only drank 5, but you still did it? You still did the action. You got up and you drank water. Great. That's the muscle memory. What if I get into the bathtub and my child runs in and completely interrupts my bath and I only got one breath in, I still did it. I think it's really staying accountable, and Blake and I have talked about this a lot. I've been teaching fitness for over 20 years of my life. And what you mentioned a few minutes ago is, for me, the biggest hurdle for people. People give up on themselves, and people abandon their plan because they can't get it right or perfect. Journaling is a perfect example. Meditation is a perfect example. People have a thought process around, to journal, I have to write a paragraph, or I have to write a novel, or to meditate, it's not enough to do a minute. I have to do 10 minutes because that's what Deepak Chopra does. So clearly that's what's best.
Well, and I think that's such a key part for I have to bring it back and remind you that optimized AF, is for you. And it has to be individualized. It has to be unique. I think we get far too often, we get in this comparison mindset. Now, this is a difficult kind of topic to go down, because I think comparison to a point is good. You don't know what you don't know. So we compare to people who have done it before us. That's what, really, let's take a step back.
There you go.
Do I get points for extra credit doing that outside the game?
You get
deduction
points.
From next time. I actually don't get to play next time. The idea that there's a incredibly large amount of unique ideas in today's age is sort of arrogant even in itself to say it out loud, right? Look at Hollywood and movies. What are we getting? We're getting remakes all over the place. There's not a unique script that's coming out often. Business. You mentioned earlier about these leadership development books or business books. If you're in that space, if you're in the business world and you've read at least 5 of them, I challenge you to show me that they're vastly different in their concepts. It comes down to how the author, particularly that individual, communicated those same concepts in their own words, and then leverage that with their own unique past experiences. But the concepts themselves are pretty much the same through any of those books. No harm, no foul. I don't say it's a bad thing. It just is the reality. Now, from a habit standpoint, to bring it back again, if journaling is for you, or meditation, and it's 10 minutes that you saw as the example, make 30 seconds yours. Make 1 minute yours. Start small. Keep it simple, because you can build upon that. And this is going to get even to a deeper topic, just society-wise, about, just the need for instant gratification. I've got to have these new things right now. Mm-hmm. The best things that are going to benefit your life are the ones that take some time. It is. That's the reality of that. And so I think the more that you can really focus on celebrating the small wins and then build on those over time. And you know what? If it takes you a year, well, fuck, it took you a year. Who cares?
Yeah.
But where you end up with at the end of that year is a hell of a lot better than if you'd have set the goal too big and 1 month in you quit.
Yep.
I'd rather see people make it the year.
I agree. And one habit I can tell you that I've given to some clients to start with, because sometimes people won't do something for themselves as well as they'll do something for someone else. And so one habit that I've actually coached a lot of people when I'm coaching teams or executives is gratitude towards someone else. And so the habit of first thing in the morning, or the last thing you do before you put your phone away, is send a text message of gratitude to someone. So it's kind of like a baby journaling project, right? It doesn't have to be verbose. It can just be as simple as, I'm grateful for you in my life. I tell husbands and wives all the time when I'm coaching them to just tell your spouse every day one thing that you're grateful for them. And I think that's a habit stacking thing, that if you struggle in developing habits, if that's a theme in your life, that you've always struggled to create these grooves, start by creating a groove that has a positive impact on someone else. Everything we do is selfish, right? Every single thing we do, even when we do things for charity, it makes us feel good. So at the end of the day, you're still doing at the end of the day. There's a euphemism that's overused.
I'll have that to you by EOD Friday.
You will?
Yeah,
Good.
that deck is going to be.
Yeah, just get me that deck right away. The thing that I think makes it really valuable is if you're a person that's driven by creating good feelings for other people, it does radiate back to you, but it's a habit that you can develop that can also actually kind of ripple out to other people.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You said it earlier that, that you serve, right? We've talked about this before. We both have the heart of a server. We think about others before ourselves. You use the example that you'll do like 100 things for your family, your teenagers, your children, your boyfriend, your dogs, your pets. I mean, you will put everybody first. If some of our listeners, if you're listening to this and you find yourself feeling the same way, you're like, wow, I really do. I mean, I'm not just saying it. I legitimately think about others before I think about myself. What we're asking you to do is intentionally and purposely do something for you. Now, to Stacie's point, that might be still tied to bringing value to another person. That's okay. But, seek out something that is uniquely and really just selfishly only yours. And as we kind of take this episode to a close, I really like the idea that Stacie just shared, and I think let's make that our challenge for this episode, Stacie. Unless you've got another one in mind, but I think if you're listening to this tonight, when you go home and before you lay your head to pillow and you just cash out for the night, you're done. Find someone that you haven't talked to in 30 days. Let's really get specific with this because I want to help people get it done. There's a role that you play in this world for someone, okay? And this is something that I talk a lot about with the clients that I coach. You wear many hats, and I think people have no problem of recognizing the normal, like the big ones. I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a friend, I'm a neighbor. Guess what? Challenge yourself. Really think about the roles and the hats you play in this world, and you'll probably come up with a list that's 30, 40 deep. So what I challenge you is find one of those that you've unintentionally neglected in the last 30 days and send that person a text message of gratitude and make it personal. Why are you grateful for them? What do they bring to your life that they need to be reminded of that they bring to this world? And I think that's the good challenge to take into the next one. And if you find value out of it, again, let's put it to practice on a daily basis. Let's start deepening that groove and have it stack it with something else you already do.
Absolutely. And like Blake said, it can be first thing in the morning to start somebody's day, or if it's easier for you to do it right at the end of the day. I think gratitude is contagious. And I think it's something that if you can start with that one habit and let us know how you're doing with that one habit, but definitely go back to the basics, identify one thing that you do every single day without fail and stack it on that. And that's the magic of habit stacking. That's the magic of what we're going to talk about, I think, in the next episode, which is about accountability to develop new habits, which is a really key component. Otherwise, personal trainers wouldn't get paid what they do, because accountability is a big part of developing habits. But let's just say at this point, you're going to be accountable to us, and you're going to be accountable to yourself to send one message of gratitude to someone. And I love Blake's idea of rippling that out further than your immediate sphere. And if it feels good and you want to do the next night and go do it again, I think it's just a great habit to start, especially in the times that we're in today.
Perfect. Well, we want to thank you guys for listening today. We hope that this was valuable for you. We hope that you come back for the next episode, and take care.
Thanks, guys. See you next time. Hey guys, thanks for listening to our show. You can find Blake and I on social media channels at Blake Rayhans and at Stacie Mallon.
Be sure to follow Optimized AF on Instagram and rate and subscribe to this podcast on iTunes. See you next time.